What if I told you? Ancient India created iron that doesn't rust for over 1,600 years. And the Greeks invented a weapon so terrifying it could burn on water? In the heart of Delhi stands the mysterious Iron Pillar of Delhi, a massive iron structure built around 400 AD. No modern coating, no advanced machinery. Yet, after centuries of rain, heat, and time, it barely corrodes. Even today, scientists are stunned by the advanced metallurgy behind it. But that's only half the mystery. In the powerful Byzantine Empire, a secret weapon changed naval warfare forever: Greek fire. A terrifying liquid flame that could ignite enemy ships instantly. Fire that burned on water. And the deadly formula? Lost to history. Two ancient civilizations. Two technologies that seem impossible for their time. Were they simply ahead of their era? Or is history hiding something bigger? If you love uncovering ancient mysteries that textbooks barely talk about, make sure you hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. Let's go. There is a metal pillar standing in Delhi that refuses to rust. No matter how many years pass, no matter how many storms, heat waves, rains, pollution, or hands that touch it, it still stands strong. And the strangest part? It was built more than 1,600 years ago. Long before modern science, long before stainless steel, long before machines and labs. People look at it today and still ask the same question. How did ancient Indians make something that even modern engineers struggle to explain? This is the story of the ancient Indian iron pillar. Imagine walking into a quiet historical site in Delhi. Tourists moving around, cameras clicking, birds flying above old stone structures. And there, standing tall and silent, is a simple-looking pillar made of iron. No shine, no decoration that screams attention. But once you know its story, it becomes one of the most mysterious objects in the world. This pillar was made around 400 CE, during the time of the Gupta Empire. That was an era known for knowledge, art, mathematics, and science. But still, making an iron structure that does not rust for centuries. That sounds almost impossible. The pillar is about 7 meters tall and weighs more than 6 tons. It was not made in parts, it was forged as a single solid piece. Think about that. No modern machines, no electric furnaces, no industrial tools. Just fire, skill, and human hands. And yet, here it stands. For years, scientists studied it. They checked its metal composition, surface, and structure. They expected to find some secret coating or treatment. But the truth was even more surprising. The pillar was made using a special ancient technique where iron was heated and hammered repeatedly. This created a protective layer over time. That layer stopped rust from spreading. But this explanation still does not fully satisfy everyone. Because even today, when we produce iron in factories, we often struggle to protect it from rust for long periods without chemical treatments. The pillar survived over 1,000 monsoons. Delhi has heavy humidity, changing weather and pollution. Still, the rust never took over. It's not fully rust-free. If you look closely, you will see small signs of corrosion. But compared to normal iron, the difference is shocking. Most iron objects would have turned weak or broken long ago. Some believe the secret lies in the quality of iron used. Ancient Indian blacksmiths were masters. They understood fire, temperature, and materials deeply. They did not write everything down, but their hands knew what to do. Skill passed from teacher to student. Knowledge lived in practice. Others think there may have been spiritual reasons. In ancient India, metals were not just materials. They had meaning. Iron was linked with strength and protection. Some believe the pillar was not only a technical achievement, but also a symbol of power and devotion. There is also a story that the pillar was originally built somewhere else and later moved to Delhi. Transporting such a heavy structure in ancient times would have been a huge challenge. How did they carry it? How many people were involved? What tools did they use? No one knows for sure. Over time, the pillar became more than just metal. It became a mystery people wanted to touch. For many years, visitors believed that if they stood with their back to the pillar and wrapped their arms around it, their wishes would come true. People tried again and again. The iron became smooth where hands touched it. But that also created a problem. Human touch brought moisture and sweat. That started small corrosion on the surface. Authorities later placed a fence around it to protect it. The pillar survived centuries, but modern interaction became a threat. Isn't that strange? Ancient weather could not destroy it, but human curiosity almost did. The pillar also carries an inscription. Written in Sanskrit, it talks about a king named Chandragupta II. The writing praises his strength and achievements. This tells us the pillar was not only a technical object, but also a symbol of victory and pride. Think about the mindset of people at that time. They were not just building for survival. They were building for memory. They wanted to create something that would outlive them, something that would speak to future generations. And it worked, because today thousands of people visit it. Engineers, historians, tourists, students all come to see the pillar. Some look at it as science, some as history, some as a mystery that still feels unsolved. Modern studies found that the iron contains a high amount of phosphorus. This helped form a protective layer when exposed to air and moisture. That layer slowed down rust. But even knowing this, recreating the exact same result is not easy. Ancient methods were different. Slow, careful, handmade. Today's methods are fast, mass production, machine-based. Maybe the difference is not just technology, maybe it is patience. Another mystery is the forging process. To create such a tall pillar, pieces of iron had to be heated and welded together perfectly. One mistake could have caused cracks. One weak point could have destroyed the whole structure. But the ancient craftsmen succeeded. And yet, we do not know their names. No signature, no record, just the result of their work. It makes you think about how many brilliant minds lived in the past whose stories were never written. There is also debate about whether this was the only pillar like this. Some believe there were others, but they did not survive. Maybe they rusted. Maybe they were destroyed in wars. Maybe they are still buried somewhere. History keeps secrets. Standing near the pillar today, it does not feel loud or dramatic. It feels quiet, like it is just watching the world change. Empires came and went, rulers changed, cities grew, technology advanced. But the pillar stayed. It saw invasions. It saw the Mughal era. It saw British rule. It saw independent India. And it still stands in the same place, calm and silent. Some people say mysteries lose power when science explains them. But this pillar feels different. Even after explanations, it still feels magical. Because understanding the chemistry does not explain the human skill behind it. Someone had the idea, someone believed it was possible, someone built it, and that someone lived 1,600 years ago. Today, the site around the pillar is active and protected. Tourists come every day. Guides explain the history. Students visit during school trips. The pillar is surrounded by historical structures and is part of a heritage complex. There are positive things about its current condition. The pillar is protected by barriers, which stop people from touching it directly. Conservation teams monitor it. Research continues. Awareness has increased. People respect it as a national treasure. But there are negative sides too. Pollution in Delhi is high. Air quality affects metal over time. Acidic particles in the air can slowly react with surfaces. Climate change is also bringing unpredictable weather. Temperature changes can impact long-term preservation. Another issue is crowd pressure. Large numbers of visitors can create stress on heritage areas. Foot traffic, dust, and small human actions slowly affect the environment around the monument. Urban development around historical sites also brings challenges. Noise, vibrations, and pollution from nearby city activity can slowly impact structures. Still, compared to many ancient objects, the pillar is in strong condition. My personal opinion is this: the iron pillar is not just about science, it is about respect for knowledge. It shows that ancient people were not less intelligent. They just used different methods. They worked with nature instead of forcing it. We often believe modern times are the most advanced, but this pillar reminds us that wisdom existed long before modern machines. Sometimes, old knowledge disappears because we stop valuing it. The pillar also teaches patience. It was not built in a hurry, it was made with care. Today, we build fast, but not always for long life. Maybe the biggest mystery is not how the pillar resists rust. Maybe the mystery is how humans once built things meant to last forever. And now, in today's world, the iron pillar stands as a bridge between past and present. Scientists still study it. Visitors still admire it. Historians still debate its origin and movement. Present situation at that place. The pillar remains protected inside the historical complex in Delhi. It is stable, monitored, and visited by thousands every month. Pollution and urban pressure are ongoing concerns, but conservation efforts continue. It stands strong, still resisting rust, still holding its mystery, and still reminding the world that ancient skill can sometimes feel more powerful than modern science. Sacsayhuaman stonework, Peru, approximately 1400s. High above the city of Cusco in Peru, there is a place where stones look like they were shaped by giants. Massive blocks, some taller than a person, some heavier than trucks, are stacked together so perfectly that even a thin blade cannot pass between them. No cement, no glue, just stone touching stone. And that is where the mystery begins. Because no one fully understands how these stones were cut, moved, and fitted so perfectly in the 1400s, long before modern machines, cranes, or advanced metal tools. This is the story of Sacsayhuaman. At first glance, it looks like the ruins of a fortress. Wide open spaces, layered stone walls that zigzag across the hill. The city of Cusco spread below like a painting, the wind moving softly across the land. But once you walk closer to the walls, everything changes. The stones are not straight. They are not shaped into simple squares like modern bricks. Each stone has many sides. Some have 10, 12, even more angles, and still they fit together perfectly, like a giant puzzle. Not one stone is the same shape as the other, and that is what confuses engineers even today. Because creating such shapes requires planning, measurement, and tools. But the Inca civilization did not use iron tools like modern builders. They worked mostly with stone tools. So, how did they cut hard rocks so precisely? Many theories exist, but no clear answer. Some believe they used patience more than technology, slowly shaping each stone, checking its fit, adjusting it again and again until it sat perfectly in place. Others think they used natural techniques like heating the stone and cooling it to create cracks. Some even believe there was a lost method that disappeared with time. But the biggest mystery is not just cutting the stones, it is moving them. Some stones in Sacsayhuaman weigh more than 100 tons. That is heavier than a fully loaded airplane. Today, moving such weight requires machines, cranes, trucks, and advanced planning. Back then, none of that existed. No wheels for transport. No animal strong enough to carry such load. No metal machines. Still, the stones reached the hilltop. Historians believe thousands of workers may have pulled them using ropes, wooden rollers, and pure human strength. Imagine hundreds of people moving one stone slowly, step by step, across uneven land. It must have taken months, maybe years, and yet the final result feels effortless, clean, solid, strong. What makes Sacsayhuaman even more fascinating is its design. The walls are built in a zigzag pattern. This was not random, it helped in defense. Enemies could not easily attack a straight line. The structure also helped absorb shock from earthquakes, and this is important, because Peru is an earthquake-prone region. Many buildings built later with modern methods collapsed over time. But these ancient stone walls survived. When the ground shakes, the stones move slightly and settle back into place. No cracks, no collapse. It is like the structure is alive. The Inca people were not just builders. They understood nature. They built with the land, not against it. There is also a deeper meaning to Sacsayhuaman. Some say it was a fortress. Others believe it was a ceremonial site, a sacred place used for rituals and gatherings. The truth may be both. It could have been a place of protection and spirituality at the same time. From the top, you can see the whole city of Cusco. In ancient times, this view was important. Leaders could watch over the land. They could feel connected to the mountains, the sky, and the people below. The stones themselves feel powerful, not polished, not decorated, but strong and silent. Each one feels like it carries a story. And yet, we do not know the names of the people who shaped them. No records, no signatures, just the work they left behind. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they were shocked by what they saw. They could not understand how such massive stones were placed so perfectly. Many Spanish buildings later used stones taken from other Inca structures, but even they struggled to copy the same precision. Sacsayhuaman remained, partly because the stones were too big to move. Time passed. Empires changed, cultures mixed, but the stone walls stayed in the same place, watching everything. Weather hit them, rain, sun, cold nights, earthquakes. Still, they survived. Today, scientists and engineers continue to study the site. They measure the stones, they study the joints. They try to recreate similar designs, but the exact technique used by the Incas is still not fully known. Some believe the secret is not a single method, but a combination of skill, teamwork, and understanding of materials. Others feel there is something we still have not discovered. Standing near those walls gives a strange feeling. You feel small, not because of fear, but because of the scale. Humans built this without modern tools. That realization changes how you see history. We often think ancient people were simple, but places like Sacsayhuaman prove the opposite. They were careful thinkers. They observed nature closely. They planned for the future. And most importantly, they built things meant to last. But time also brought damage. Natural erosion slowly affects the stones. Wind carries dust. Rainwater enters small gaps. Temperature changes expand and shrink surfaces. These slow processes take years, but they leave marks. Tourism is another factor. Thousands of visitors walk through the site every day. Foot traffic wears down paths. People sometimes climb on stones for photos. Even small actions repeated many times can cause harm. There were also historical damages. During colonial times, parts of the site were broken or changed. Stones were removed. Some areas lost their original form. Still, what remains is powerful enough to amaze anyone. Today, Sacsayhuaman is protected as a historical and cultural site in Peru. It attracts visitors from all over the world. Guides explain its history. Researchers study its design. Local communities respect it as part of their identity. There are positive conditions now. Conservation teams monitor the structure. Efforts are made to control erosion. Tourist pathways are managed to reduce damage. Awareness has increased. People understand its importance not just as a tourist spot, but as a heritage of human history. The site also supports local tourism. It brings income to nearby communities. Cultural events are sometimes held there, keeping traditions alive. But there are negative conditions too. Climate change is affecting weather patterns. Heavy rains and sudden temperature shifts can slowly damage the stones. Increasing tourist numbers create pressure on preservation. Some visitors do not follow rules, touching or climbing sensitive areas. Urban growth around Cusco also brings challenges. Pollution, vibrations from traffic, and construction activity can impact ancient structures over time. Another issue is loss of traditional knowledge. The building methods used by the Incas are not fully understood today. Without that knowledge, restoration becomes difficult. Modern repairs cannot always match ancient techniques, and that creates a risk for the future. My opinion is simple. Sacsayhuaman is not just a ruin. It is proof of human capability. It shows what people can achieve when they work together with patience and respect for nature. Modern society builds fast, but many structures do not last even 100 years. These stones have stood for over 500 years. That says something. Maybe the biggest lesson here is not about technology, it is about mindset. Ancient builders focused on strength, balance, and long-term survival. They did not rush, they worked with care. Today, we often chase speed and convenience. We forget durability. Sacsayhuaman reminds us that real progress is not always about new machines. Sometimes it is about understanding old wisdom. And there is still mystery left. We still do not know exactly how every stone was shaped. We still do not know how they lifted the heaviest ones. We still do not know the full purpose of every part of the site. And maybe that is good, because mystery keeps history alive. People continue to visit, study, and wonder. Each generation looks at the stones with new questions. Each person finds a different meaning. Some see engineering, some see art, some see spirituality. Some just see human effort at its best. Present situation at that place. Sacsayhuaman remains one of the most visited historical sites in Peru. The stone walls are still standing strong, though natural erosion and tourism create ongoing challenges. Conservation work is active, and authorities try to balance tourism with protection. The site is stable, respected, and continues to inspire researchers and travelers. Even after centuries, it holds its mystery, its strength, and its silent message about what humans were capable of long before modern technology existed. Greek fire, Byzantine Empire, approximately 7th century. Imagine a weapon so terrifying that enemies jumped into the sea just to escape it. A fire that burned on water. A flame that could not be put out easily, even with sand or water. A weapon so secret that its formula was protected like the greatest treasure of an empire. And then, it vanished. No one today knows exactly how to recreate it. This is the mystery of Greek fire. Around the 7th century, the powerful Byzantine Empire faced constant attacks. Enemies came by land and sea. Cities were under threat. Armies were growing stronger. And survival depended not just on soldiers but on innovation. That is when this strange and powerful weapon appeared. Greek fire was not just fire. It was a liquid substance that could be sprayed from tubes mounted on ships. When released, it burst into flames and spread rapidly. It stuck to surfaces. It burned ships. It terrified soldiers. And the most shocking part, it kept burning even on water. Think about that for a moment. Water usually stops fire, but this fire ignored water. During naval battles, Byzantine ships used special devices called siphons. These worked like ancient flamethrowers. A pressurized system pushed the liquid outward, and it ignited instantly. Flames shot across the sea, hitting enemy ships before they could react. Imagine being a sailor at that time. You are on a wooden ship. You see a strange tube pointed toward you, and suddenly, fire explodes across the water and climbs onto your deck. There is nowhere to run. This weapon gave the Byzantines a major advantage. It protected their capital, Constantinople, from several attacks. Enemies feared naval battles because of it. Some even avoided direct confrontation. It was not just a weapon, it was psychological power. People believed it was almost magical. The exact formula was known only to a few people. It was treated as a state secret, passed from one generation to another under strict protection. Even soldiers using it may not have known what it was made of. And that secrecy is one reason why we still don't know the full truth today. Historians believe the weapon was first developed by a man named Callinicus, a skilled engineer or chemist who came from the eastern regions of the empire. He reportedly presented the idea to the Byzantine rulers as a defense tool. From there, it changed warfare. But here is where the mystery deepens. We do not have a clear written formula. Old texts describe its effects, but not the exact ingredients. Some mention substances like petroleum, sulfur, quicklime, and resin. These could create strong burning reactions. But none of the experiments done today fully match the behavior described in history, especially the part about burning on water. Some scientists think petroleum played a major role. Natural oil sources existed in certain regions. When mixed with other materials, it could create a sticky, flammable liquid. Once ignited, it could float and burn. Others believe quicklime was key. When quicklime touches water, it creates heat. That heat could help the fire continue burning even when water was poured on it. But again, these are theories. No exact replica exists, and that is what makes Greek fire different from other ancient inventions. Most old technologies can be rediscovered or rebuilt with research, but this one feels incomplete, like a puzzle with missing pieces. It was also used in land battles. Soldiers carried smaller versions in pots or handheld devices. They could throw it or spray it toward enemies. Imagine facing a fire that follows you, sticks to your armor, and keeps burning. Fear alone could break an army. Greek fire was not just destruction, it was strategy. The Byzantines did not use it everywhere. They used it carefully, mainly in defensive situations, protecting cities, protecting ships, protecting important routes. They understood its value. If enemies learned how to make it, the advantage would disappear. So they protected the secret at all costs. There are stories that workers involved in its creation were isolated. Knowledge was controlled. Only trusted individuals handled it. This level of secrecy was rare but necessary, because losing the formula meant losing power. And one day, that is exactly what happened. Over time, the Byzantine Empire weakened. Wars, internal conflicts, and changes in leadership affected stability. Knowledge chains broke. Skilled people died. Records were lost. Slowly, Greek fire disappeared. By the time the empire declined further, the formula was gone. Just like that. One of the most powerful weapons in history vanished. Today, historians and scientists try to reconstruct it. They study ancient texts, they test chemical combinations, they analyze descriptions of battles. But no version behaves exactly the same as the original. Some modern experiments produce flames on water, yes, but not with the same intensity, control, and effectiveness described. There is still a gap. and that gap keeps the mystery alive. Standing in museums today, looking at models of Byzantine ships, you can imagine the scene. Dark seas, wooden fleets, soldiers shouting, and suddenly a stream of fire cutting through the night. It must have looked unreal, almost supernatural. People at that time probably believed it came from divine power. Because how else could fire behave like that? Even enemies wrote about it with fear and respect. They described it as unstoppable. They described it as something they had never seen before. And that fear protected the empire for centuries. But like all powerful things, it came with risk. Handling Greek fire was dangerous. One mistake could burn your own ship. If the wind changed direction, flames could return toward the attackers. Storing the liquid required care. Transporting it was risky. This was not a simple weapon. It demanded skill and discipline. Today, the exact locations where it was produced are uncertain. Some believe it was made near the capital. Others think different regions produced it using local materials. There is no single confirmed site. That makes preservation difficult. Unlike monuments or structures, Greek fire was knowledge. And knowledge can disappear faster than stone. Still, its impact is remembered. It helped protect Constantinople from invasions multiple times. It gave the Byzantine navy dominance for long periods. It influenced how warfare evolved. Later empires tried to create similar weapons, but none matched it fully. Today, historians view Greek fire as one of the earliest chemical weapons, not in the modern sense, but as a blend of science and warfare. It showed that intelligence and creativity could change battle outcomes. And it also showed the danger of secrecy, because when knowledge is kept too hidden, it risks being lost forever. There are positive conditions today regarding its legacy. Research continues. Universities study Byzantine technology. Museums display reconstructions of siphons and ships. Documentaries and historical studies keep the story alive. Interest in ancient science is growing. People are curious again. They want to understand how early civilizations used chemistry, engineering, and strategy. This helps preserve history, but there are negative sides too. Since the formula is lost, many fake theories spread online. Some people claim magical or impossible explanations. Others exaggerate its power. This creates confusion. It becomes harder to separate fact from imagination. Another issue is lack of physical evidence. No original device survived fully. No preserved container. Only descriptions and partial remains. This limits research. Also, ancient knowledge often gets ignored because modern society focuses on new technology. We move forward fast and forget to look back. And when we forget, we lose valuable lessons. My opinion is this: Greek fire is not just about a weapon. It is about human curiosity and creativity. People long ago studied materials, experimented, and created something powerful without modern labs or machines. That deserves respect. It also reminds us that intelligence existed in every era. Ancient people were not less advanced in thinking. They simply used what they had in smarter ways. Another lesson is about balance. Power without preservation disappears. If the formula had been shared more openly, maybe it would still exist today. But then again, it might have been misused even more. So maybe secrecy protected it and also destroyed it. There is something emotional about lost knowledge. It feels like a voice from the past that we can almost hear but never fully understand. Greek fire sits in that space. Half history, half mystery. Even today, when we have advanced science, satellites, and powerful labs, we still cannot recreate everything from the past. That humbles us. It reminds us we are still learning, and maybe that is the beauty of it. Not every secret needs to be solved completely. Some mysteries keep us curious. They push us to explore. They connect us to the people who lived before us. Greek fire is one of those mysteries. Present situation at that places. There is no single surviving location where Greek fire exists today. Its legacy lives in historical records, museums, and research centers connected to Byzantine history. Cities like Constantinople, now modern Istanbul, preserve memories of the empire it protected. Scholars continue to study ancient warfare and chemistry, but the original formula remains lost. Interest is growing. Preservation of Byzantine heritage is improving. Yet the true method of Greek fire is still unknown. A powerful secret that history could not fully protect. Viking sunstone navigation, Scandinavia, approximately 10th century. How did Viking sailors cross huge oceans without a compass? No GPS, no maps like today, no satellite. Only sky, sea, and instinct. And yet, they sailed thousands of kilometers. Through storms, fog, and endless water. They reached new lands, unknown coasts, and survived journeys that even modern sailors respect. But there is one mystery that still puzzles historians. Did Vikings use a special crystal to find the sun, even when it was hidden? This is the mystery of the Viking sunstone. Around the 10th century, the Vikings were among the best sailors in the world. They came from the cold northern lands of Scandinavia. Their lives depended on the sea. Trade, war, exploration, everything required navigation. But here's the problem. In northern regions, the sky is often cloudy. Fog covers the sea. The sun disappears for days. In winter, daylight is short. In storms, direction becomes confusing. Without knowing where the sun is, finding direction becomes very hard. Today, we use compasses. Back then, compasses were not widely used in that region. Still, Vikings sailed with confidence. So how? Old stories and research suggest they may have used something called a sunstone, a special crystal that could help them locate the position of the sun even when it was hidden behind clouds. At first, this sounds impossible. How can a stone find the sun? But when scientists studied certain crystals found in northern regions, they discovered something interesting. Some crystals react to polarized light, a natural pattern in sunlight that spreads across the sky even when the sun is not visible. One such crystal is Iceland spar. When held up to the sky and rotated, it changes how light appears. With practice, a person can guess where the sun is located. Imagine standing on a Viking ship. The sky is gray, no clear sun. You hold a crystal to your eye, you turn it slowly, and suddenly you can sense where the light is strongest. That tells you where the sun must be. That tells you direction. This idea changed how people looked at Viking navigation, because it meant they were not just brave sailors. They were observers of nature. They studied light. They studied the sky. They learned patterns. And they used simple tools in smart ways. There is a famous story in old Nordic texts about a king using a sunstone to locate the sun on a cloudy day. For years, people thought it was just a myth, a poetic story, not real science. But modern experiments suggest it might have been true. Scientists tested Iceland spar crystals under cloudy skies. They found that with training, people could estimate the sun's position with surprising accuracy. Not perfect, but enough for navigation. And that is what matters at sea. You don't need exact direction. You need reliable direction. Vikings used the sun, stars, winds, and ocean currents. The sunstone may have been one of many tools, but it gave them an advantage, especially in northern waters. Foggy seas, long, cloudy days, low sunlight, places where normal navigation becomes difficult. Some believe sunstones were kept by experienced navigators. Not every sailor had one. Only skilled leaders who understood how to use them. It required practice. You could not just pick up the crystal and know direction. You had to learn, you had to observe, you had to trust your senses. And that makes it even more impressive. Because this was not technology powered by machines. It was knowledge powered by attention. The Vikings did not fight nature, they listened to it. They watched how light moved, they watched how birds flew, they watched how waves changed. Navigation was part science, part instinct, and part courage. There is still debate today about how widely sunstones were used. Some historians say they were rare. Others believe they were common tools among navigators. The problem is simple. Wood rots, metal rusts, crystals break, time destroys evidence. Very few physical objects survive from that period. But there is one interesting discovery. A crystal believed to be Iceland spar was found on an old shipwreck from later centuries. That suggests sailors continued using similar tools even after compasses became common, which means the method worked. Otherwise, why keep using it? Standing on the deck of a Viking longship must have been terrifying. Cold wind, rough sea, no land in sight, only water in every direction. In such moments, a simple crystal could mean survival. It could guide you home. It could guide you to new land. It could prevent you from getting lost forever. And that makes the sunstone more than a tool. It becomes a symbol of human creativity, a symbol of survival, a symbol of using nature as a guide instead of an enemy. The Vikings were explorers. They reached places like Iceland, Greenland, and even parts of North America long before many others. Navigation made that possible. Without direction, exploration is impossible. Without guidance, courage is useless. The sunstone may have played a quiet but powerful role in those journeys. But like many ancient techniques, the knowledge faded. As compasses became common in Europe, older methods were forgotten. Skills passed through generations slowly disappeared. The art of reading the sky became less important. Technology replaced observation. And that happens often in history. We invent new tools, and we forget old wisdom. Today, scientists and historians continue studying the sunstone theory. They test crystals under different weather. They try to understand how accurate it could have been. Some results are strong, some are uncertain. The mystery is not fully solved, and maybe it never will be. Because navigation is complex, it involves many factors. Wind, stars, memory, experience. The sunstone may have been one piece of a larger system, not the only answer, but an important one. There are positive conditions today regarding this mystery. Interest in Viking history is growing. Museums display navigation tools. Researchers study ancient sailing methods. People are learning how early humans understood nature deeply. There are also experiments where modern sailors try navigating using old techniques. Some even test crystals under cloudy skies. This keeps the knowledge alive. Education helps people respect ancient intelligence. But there are negative sides too. Many myths get mixed with facts. Movies and stories exaggerate Viking abilities. Some claims are unrealistic. This confuses people. Real science becomes hidden under fantasy. Another issue is environmental change. The northern skies and seas are changing due to climate shifts. Weather patterns are different. Ice is melting. Navigation conditions are not the same as they were centuries ago. Studying ancient methods becomes harder. Also, fewer people today learn natural navigation. We depend fully on GPS and machines. If technology fails, many would struggle to find direction. That is a concern, because ancient humans survived without electronics. We forgot how. My opinion is simple. The Viking Sunstone reminds us that intelligence is not only about machines. It is about awareness, observation, learning from nature. Ancient people were not less advanced, they were differently advanced. They noticed things we ignore: light patterns, wind changes, sky color, bird movement. These are skills, and they matter. Modern life made things easier, but it also made us less attentive. We trust screens more than senses. The Sunstone story is powerful because it shows how humans once lived closely with nature. They did not dominate it. They adapted to it. They learned from it. And that made them strong. Another lesson is curiosity. Someone once picked up a crystal and noticed how it changed light. Someone tested it. Someone used it at sea. That curiosity changed navigation. Even today, curiosity drives science. Every discovery begins with noticing something small: a reflection, a shadow, a pattern. The Vikings did that long ago, and their legacy still inspires researchers. We may never know exactly how many sailors used sunstones. We may never find a written guide explaining its use, but the idea itself proves something important. Human beings always search for direction. Not just on the sea, in life, we look for signs, guidance, light in uncertainty. The sunstone becomes a metaphor, finding light when the sun is hidden, finding direction when everything looks unclear. That is not just navigation, that is human nature. Present situation at those places. Across Scandinavia, interest in Viking navigation continues through museums, research centers, and cultural programs. Crystals like Iceland's spar are studied in labs and displayed as historical tools. Tourism connected to Viking heritage is growing, bringing awareness and economic support. However, modern dependence on digital navigation has reduced interest in natural methods, and environmental changes in northern seas affect historical study conditions. The mystery of the Sunstone remains open, respected, researched, and still inspiring people to understand how ancient sailors crossed oceans using nothing but observation, courage, and the light hidden inside the sky. Pyramids construction techniques. Egypt, approximately 2600 BCE. Imagine standing in front of a structure so massive, so perfectly shaped, that even today people struggle to understand how it was built. Not with cranes, not with machines, not with steel tools, just stone, sand, and human effort. And it has been standing there for more than 4,500 years. No collapse, no major damage, no clear answer to how it was done. This is the mystery of how the pyramids were built. Around 2600 BCE, ancient Egypt began building some of the most incredible structures in human history. The most famous among them stands near Giza, rising from the desert like a silent giant, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was built as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, but calling it just a tomb feels too simple. This structure is made of millions of stone blocks. Some blocks weigh more than a car. Some weigh as much as elephants. And every one of them had to be cut, moved, and placed with precision. Think about the time. No engines, no electricity, no modern tools. Still, the pyramid stands with near-perfect alignment to the directions of north, south, east, and west. Even modern builders respect the accuracy. So the question begins: how did they do it? Many people imagine slaves pulling stones in harsh conditions, but newer studies suggest something different. The workers were likely skilled laborers, builders, engineers, planners, and craftsmen. They were organized into teams. They lived near the site. They were fed, trained, and supervised. This was not random work, it was planned. Every stone block had a place. Every step had a system. One theory says the stones were cut from nearby quarries using copper tools and stone hammers. That sounds simple, but cutting limestone and granite with such tools requires incredible patience. It could take days to shape a single block, but shaping the stone was only the first challenge. The real mystery is moving them. Some stones came from far away. Granite blocks were transported from areas hundreds of kilometers away. How did they carry such heavy materials across deserts and rivers? One idea is sledges, wooden platforms that dragged stones across sand. Workers poured water on the sand to reduce friction. Experiments today show this method works. Wet sand makes it easier to pull heavy weight. Hundreds of workers pulling together. Step by step, slow but steady. But then comes the next challenge. Lifting the stones. The pyramid rises high. Each level needed stones placed carefully above the previous one. How did they lift blocks weighing tons to such heights? The most popular idea is ramps. Long, wide ramps made of mud bricks and sand. Stones were dragged up gradually. As the pyramid grew, the ramps grew too. Some believe ramps were straight. Others think they wrapped around the pyramid in a spiral. But there is still debate, because building ramps large enough would itself require massive effort, and little physical evidence of those ramps remains. Another idea suggests internal ramps, pathways inside the pyramid structure used to move stones upward. This theory explains some unusual patterns inside the pyramid walls, but again, no complete proof, only clues, only guesses. And that is what keeps the mystery alive. What makes the pyramids even more fascinating is their precision. The sides align almost perfectly with true north. The base is nearly level. The stone joints are so tight that even today it is hard to insert a blade between them. This is not luck. This is knowledge. Ancient Egyptians understood measurement. They studied the stars. They used shadows. They observed the movement of the sun. They developed geometry long before it was written in textbooks. The pyramid was not just built. It was calculated. It was designed. It was planned for eternity. Because for Egyptians, death was not the end. It was a journey. Pharaohs believed their soul would travel to the afterlife. The pyramid was meant to protect them forever. That belief drove everything. Every stone placed carefully. Every chamber aligned. Every passage designed with purpose. But here is another mystery. Why were these pyramids so strong? Many structures built later in history collapsed or broke. But these pyramids survived earthquakes, storms, and time itself. Part of the reason is their shape. The pyramid shape spreads weight evenly. It has no weak corners. It stands stable against wind and pressure. Also, the base is wide and heavy, giving strong support. Another reason is the quality of materials. The stones were chosen carefully, fitted tightly, positioned with understanding of balance. Ancient builders may not have had modern science terms, but they understood structure through experience. They learned by doing. They improved over time. Earlier, pyramids were less perfect. Some collapsed. Some had design problems. But those failures taught them. Each new pyramid became better. Trial and error built greatness. Today, scientists use technology to scan the pyramids. They study hidden chambers. They analyze stone surfaces. They try to understand construction patterns. But even with all this modern help, the full process is still not fully clear. There is no single document explaining everything. No step-by-step guide, only remains, only results. And the results are breathtaking. Standing near the pyramid feels strange. It is silent, massive, timeless. You feel small, not in fear but in respect. Humans built this thousands of years ago, without machines, without modern science, just effort and understanding. Over time, many myths appeared. Some say aliens helped build them. Some claim lost advanced technology. But real evidence shows human skill, human planning, human patience. Nothing magical, just extraordinary dedication. And maybe that is even more impressive. because it shows what people can achieve when they work together for a shared goal. But the pyramids did not remain untouched. Time left its marks. The smooth outer layer of white limestone that once covered the pyramid is mostly gone. It was removed over centuries and used for other buildings. Weather eroded surfaces. Sandstorms slowly affected the stone. Human actions also caused damage. People climbed the pyramids, scratched names, took small pieces as souvenirs. Early explorers broke parts while searching for hidden treasures. Preservation was not always a priority. Today, the situation is different. The pyramids are protected as part of Egypt's cultural heritage. Tourism is strong. Millions visit every year. Researchers study the site. Conservation teams monitor structural health. There are positive conditions now. Security has increased. Climbing is restricted. Restoration efforts protect damaged areas. Scientific research continues. New discoveries bring better understanding. Tourism supports the local economy and spreads awareness of history. The pyramids are respected as global heritage. But there are negative sides too. Tourism brings pressure. Foot traffic affects the surroundings. Pollution from nearby city growth impacts air quality. Climate changes affect desert winds and temperatures. Urban expansion around the area creates stress on preservation. There is also risk from illegal digging and unregulated exploration in surrounding regions. Balancing tourism and protection remains a challenge. Another concern is loss of traditional understanding. Ancient construction knowledge was not written clearly, it passed through practice. Over time, those skills disappeared. Modern engineers try to understand them again, but it is difficult to recreate the same methods. We build faster today, but not always stronger. My opinion is this: the pyramids are not just buildings. They are proof of what human focus can achieve. Thousands of people working together with patience created something that survived thousands of years. Modern society often values speed. Ancient society valued permanence. That difference matters. We build skyscrapers that may last 100 years. They build structures meant to last forever. The pyramids teach us something important. Technology helps, but dedication builds greatness. Ancient Egyptians were not less intelligent. They observed nature carefully. They learned from experience. They respected time. They built with purpose, not just convenience. And maybe that is what we lost. We rush, we automate. We forget the beauty of slow creation. The pyramids remind us that patience can create wonders. They also remind us that history is not simple. It is layered. It has missing parts. And sometimes mysteries remain because knowledge fades. Not everything survives. But what survives speaks loudly. These structures speak of ambition, of belief, of teamwork, of vision beyond a lifetime. And that is rare. Even today, people travel across the world just to stand before them. Not for entertainment, but to feel connection with something ancient, powerful, and human. Because in the end, the biggest mystery is not how stones were lifted. It is how people believed so strongly in building something they would never see completed. That faith built the pyramids. Present situation at that places. The pyramids in Egypt remain among the most protected and studied historical sites in the world. Conservation work continues, tourism remains strong, and scientific exploration reveals new insights slowly. Pollution, urban expansion, and visitor pressure are ongoing concerns, but global attention helps preserve them. They still stand tall in the desert, stable and powerful, continuing to inspire curiosity, respect, and endless questions about how ancient humans achieved something so extraordinary without modern tools. Nazca Lines, Peru, approximately 500 BCE to 500 CE. In the dry desert of southern Peru, there are giant drawings on the ground that you cannot fully understand unless you see them from the sky. Lines stretching for kilometers, shapes of animals, birds, humans, patterns that look like they were made for someone looking down from above. But they were created more than 2,000 years ago, long before airplanes, long before drones, long before anyone could easily see them from the air. So, why were they made? This is the mystery of the Nazca Lines. They were created between around 500 BCE and 500 CE by the ancient Nazca civilization. The area is a wide desert plain, dry, hot, and almost lifeless. Very little rain falls there. The ground is covered with dark stones and reddish soil, but when the top layer of stones is removed, the lighter soil beneath becomes visible. And that is how the lines were formed. People cleared away the surface stones to create bright paths across the desert. From ground level, they look like simple lines and shapes, but from the sky they form giant figures. Some are hundreds of meters long. Some look like animals, a hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, a condor. Some are geometric shapes, triangles, spirals, straight lines that stretch across the land. And that raises the biggest question. Why would ancient people create drawings meant to be seen from above when they had no way to fly? At first, this sounds impossible. But then comes another mystery. How did they create such straight lines across huge distances? If you stand on the ground, you cannot see the full design. You cannot see the full pattern. You are just inside it. Still, the lines are precise. Some stretch for kilometers without bending. Some shapes keep perfect proportion. This means the Nazca people planned them carefully. They may have used simple tools, ropes, wooden sticks, and markers. By measuring distance step by step, they could create large shapes gradually. Small models could have guided the design. It required teamwork, planning, patience, and belief. Because creating something that large takes effort, it takes time, it takes purpose, and that purpose is still debated. One idea says the lines were religious. The Nazca people lived in a harsh desert environment. Water was rare, rain was precious. Survival depended on nature. Many researchers believe the lines were connected to rituals asking for rain and fertility. Some lines point toward mountains where water sources existed. Some connect to underground water channels. Some may have been pathways for ceremonial walks. Imagine groups of people walking along the lines, performing rituals, singing, praying for rain. The drawings may have been messages to the gods. Another idea suggests they were astronomical. Some lines align with sunrise or sunset at certain times of the year. Some may have pointed towards stars or important sky events. Ancient cultures often studied the sky for farming and seasons. The Nazca may have used the lines as a giant calendar. A third idea suggests social meaning. Creating the lines could have brought communities together. Large teams working toward a shared goal, a symbol of unity, a symbol of identity. Not every line had to mean something deep. Some may have been made to show effort and cooperation. But then comes a more mysterious thought. Who were the lines meant for? If they were religious, maybe they were meant for gods looking down. If they were ceremonial, maybe they were meant for the people themselves. If they were symbolic, maybe they were meant for the future. There is also the strange fact that the lines survived for so long. Over 2,000 years, still visible, still clear. This is because of the desert conditions. The area has almost no rain and very little wind. Without erosion, the lines stayed preserved. Nature protected them, but not completely. Time left marks. Some lines faded, some were damaged. Some were crossed by modern roads before people understood their importance. And then came another problem: airplanes. Once planes began flying over the region in the 20th century, people finally saw the full shapes from above. That is when global attention began. Researchers, photographers, and tourists became curious, and the mystery became famous. But attention brought risk. People walked over the lines. Vehicles crossed parts of the desert. Footsteps slowly damaged fragile surfaces. Even small marks could stay for years because the ground does not recover quickly. Preservation became urgent. Scientists studied the soil, the patterns, and the techniques. They found evidence that the Nazca people used simple tools and planning. Nothing supernatural, nothing impossible, just human intelligence. Still, some people believe strange theories. Aliens, hidden technology, secret messages. But there is no real evidence for that. Ancient humans were capable of amazing work. And Nazca lines are proof of that. The Nazca civilization itself disappeared over time. Climate changes may have affected their survival. Droughts, resource shortages, and environmental challenges likely played a role. But their drawings remained, silent, waiting to be discovered again. Standing near the desert today, you might not feel their scale. From the ground, they look simple. But once seen from the air, everything changes. You realize the effort, the size, the imagination. It feels like art created for the sky. Art without audience, art without explanation. That makes it powerful. Scientists today use satellites and drones to study the lines. New shapes have been discovered. Smaller figures hidden in areas not noticed before. Technology helps reveal patterns that were invisible earlier, and each discovery raises new questions. Why so many different designs? Why such large scale? Why here? There are positive conditions now. The Nazca lines are protected as a heritage site in Peru. Authorities restrict access. Visitors must follow strict rules. Flights above the area are regulated. Conservation teams monitor damage. Tourism also supports local communities. Awareness helps protect the site. Global attention ensures preservation efforts continue. Researchers work with new tools to map and study the lines carefully. But there are negative conditions too. Climate change is slowly affecting the desert. Unexpected rains can damage fragile lines. Strong winds can move sand and cover patterns. Environmental shifts create risks. Human activity remains a challenge. Illegal mining in nearby regions causes disturbance. Vehicles entering protected zones can damage the surface. Even small mistakes can leave permanent marks. Urban growth and modern construction nearby also create pressure. Another concern is misunderstanding. Some people still treat the site like a mystery playground. They ignore rules, they step into protected areas. They try to touch or explore. But these lines are delicate. One footprint can last decades. And that makes preservation difficult. My opinion is simple. The Nazca lines are not just drawings, they are communication. Not with words, but with effort. They show how humans express belief, identity, and creativity. Without paper, without paint, just land and imagination. Ancient people did not need advanced tools to create meaningful things. They used what they had. They used nature as their canvas. That is powerful. Another lesson is patience. These lines were not made in one day. They were built slowly, carefully, with planning. That kind of patience is rare today. We live fast, we create fast, we forget slow beauty. The Nazca lines remind us that creation is not always about speed. It is about purpose. They also remind us that mystery is valuable. If we knew exactly why every line was made, maybe the magic would fade. But the unknown keeps curiosity alive. Researchers continue searching. People continue wondering. Every generation asks the same questions, and maybe that is what the Nazca people wanted. To be remembered, to leave a mark, to say, "We were here," and they succeeded. Because thousands of years later, we still look at the desert and feel amazement. We still ask why. We still admire their effort. We still respect their intelligence. The Nazca lines are proof that humans always try to connect with something bigger: nature, gods, the sky, or the future. And that connection creates art. Not for fame, not for money, but for meaning. Present situation at that places. The Nazca lines remain one of the most important archaeological sites in Peru, protected and monitored carefully. Tourism continues under strict control, and research using drones and satellite images is ongoing. Environmental changes, illegal activities, and human pressure remain concerns, but global awareness helps protect them. The lines are still visible, still mysterious, and still inspiring people to question how and why ancient humans created such massive designs meant for the sky long before modern flight existed. Damascus steel, Middle East, approximately 300 to 1700 CE. There was once a metal so famous that warriors trusted their lives to it. A blade that could cut through armor, stay sharp for years, and show strange flowing patterns on its surface like moving water. People believed it was stronger than anything else in the world. And then, it disappeared. Even today, with modern machines and advanced science, we still struggle to recreate the original form exactly. This is the mystery of Damascus steel. Between around 300 CE and 1700 CE, blades made from this metal became legendary across the Middle East. Swords made from it were known for strength, flexibility, and sharpness. Stories spread of blades slicing silk in midair, bending without breaking, and surviving battles without damage. Warriors wanted them. Kings collected them. Blacksmiths respected them, and enemies feared them. The name Damascus steel comes from the city of Damascus, where many of these blades were traded and crafted. But the story does not begin there. The raw material likely came from elsewhere, especially from regions like India, where a special form of steel called woots was produced. Woots steel was not ordinary. It was made using a unique process where iron was heated with carbon-rich materials in sealed containers. This created a high-quality steel ingot. When skilled smiths forged it carefully, it formed unique patterns and properties. But the secret was not just in the material, it was in the technique. Blacksmiths in the Middle East knew how to work with this metal in a way that preserved its structure. If heated too much, it would lose its special qualities. If hammered wrongly, it would break. The process required patience, precision, experience, and knowledge passed from master to student. No written manuals, no clear instructions. Just hands that knew what to do. That is what made Damascus steel special. If you look at a blade made from it, you see flowing patterns, waves, swirls, lines like water moving. These were not decorations added later. They came from the metal itself. The internal structure created visible designs when polished. Scientists later discovered these patterns were linked to carbon structures inside the steel. Tiny formations gave the blade both hardness and flexibility. Hard enough to stay sharp, flexible enough to avoid breaking. That balance is rare, even today. Many modern steels are either extremely hard or very flexible. Achieving both together is difficult. Damascus steel managed to combine them centuries ago. But how exactly? That is where the mystery grows. Some believe the secret was in the raw materials, specific iron sources, specific carbon content, natural impurities that affected structure. Once those sources were lost or changed, the same result could not be achieved again. Others think the technique itself vanished. The way the metal was heated, cooled, and forged may have been unique. A slight difference in temperature or timing could change everything, And because the knowledge was not written clearly, it disappeared when blacksmith traditions faded. By the 1700s, true Damascus steel was no longer being produced. The world changed. New methods came. Industrial steel replaced handmade techniques, and the secret slipped away. For centuries, people tried to recreate it. Scientists experimented. Metallurgists studied ancient blades. Researchers examined microstructures under microscopes. Some modern versions came close, but none matched the original perfectly. The real Damascus steel remained unique. It also became surrounded by stories. Warriors spoke of blades cutting other swords in half. Travelers described weapons that never dulled. Some stories were exaggerated, of course, but the reputation came from real performance. These blades were practical, reliable, effective, not just beautiful. Another fascinating part of this mystery is trade. Wootz steel traveled across regions. It moved from India to the Middle East. Blacksmiths transformed it into weapons. Traders carried them to different lands. This shows how knowledge moved in ancient times. Ideas did not stay in one place. They traveled. Cultures shared techniques, and new innovations formed. Damascus steel is not just one culture's achievement. It is a result of cooperation across regions, raw material from one place, craftsmanship from another, demand from warriors and rulers. Together, they created something extraordinary. But every powerful creation faces time. As empires changed and wars reshaped regions, trade routes broke. Skilled blacksmith families disappeared. Industrialization shifted attention to mass production. Handmade methods were no longer practical for large armies. Speed replaced craft. Quantity replaced quality. And slowly, the original Damascus steel vanished. Today, museums hold surviving blades. Researchers analyze them. They study patterns, composition, and strength. Some experiments recreated pattern-welded steel, which looks similar, but experts say it is not exactly the same. The original internal structure remains hard to copy. Even modern labs struggle. That fact surprises many people, because we assume modern technology can reproduce anything from the past. But sometimes lost knowledge is not easy to rebuild, because it was not only about tools, it was about skill, experience, generations of learning. Standing near an ancient Damascus blade in a museum feels different from seeing modern steel. There is history in it. You can imagine the hands that shaped it, the fire, the hammer, the patience. Each blade feels personal, not factory-made, not identical, unique. Over time, the legend grew. Some believe Damascus steel contained secret materials. Some imagine advanced lost science. Some even connect it to myths. But real research shows human effort and experimentation. Ancient smiths tested, observed, and improved. They learned what worked. They passed knowledge forward. That is how innovation happens. Even without laboratories. Even without textbooks. Human curiosity built it. Human skill perfected it. But modern times also bring new conditions. There are positive developments today. Scientists continue studying surviving blades. New technologies like electron microscopes help understand internal structures. Experimental blacksmiths try to revive ancient techniques. Historical awareness is growing. Museums preserve artifacts carefully. Education spreads knowledge about ancient metallurgy. People respect traditional craftsmanship more now. But there are negative sides too. Many original blades were lost in wars, theft, and time. Some were melted, some damaged. Some disappeared into private collections. That reduces research material. Modern imitations also create confusion. Many knives today are labeled Damascus, but they are pattern-welded steel, not true historical Damascus steel. This misleads people. Industrial focus still dominates. Handmade techniques struggle to survive in a fast-paced world. Another concern is loss of traditional craftsmanship. Skills once passed through generations are fading. Few artisans learn such slow and detailed methods today. Technology makes production easier, but it also reduces appreciation for manual mastery. My opinion is this: Damascus steel is not just about a weapon. It is about how humans learn from materials. It shows how observation, patience, and repetition can create something extraordinary. Ancient blacksmiths did not rely on machines. They relied on senses. They watched the color of fire. They listened to the sound of metal. They felt resistance while hammering. That level of connection is rare today. Modern manufacturing is precise, yes, but it is distant, automated, fast. Damascus steel reminds us that true mastery takes time. It cannot be rushed. Another lesson is about preservation. When knowledge stays hidden in small groups and is not recorded, it risks disappearing. That happened here. A powerful technique vanished because it was not widely shared or documented. At the same time, secrecy protected it for centuries. So there is balance. Sharing spreads knowledge. Secrecy protects advantage. History shows both sides. The mystery of Damascus steel also humbles modern science. It proves we do not know everything. Ancient people achieved things we still try to understand. That should inspire respect, not disbelief. They were not primitive. They were observant, creative, patient, and determined. The flowing patterns on Damascus blades feel symbolic. They look like water, like movement, like life inside metal. Maybe that is why they fascinated people so much. They were not just tools, they were art. Art that could fight, art that could protect, art that could survive. Even today, when you see a true Damascus blade, you feel curiosity. You want to know how it was made, who made it, what knowledge was used, and that curiosity keeps the story alive. Present situation at those places. Across the Middle East and other regions connected to the history of Damascus steel, research and preservation continue. Museums protect surviving blades. Scientists study their composition, and modern blacksmiths attempt to recreate ancient methods. However, true original Damascus steel is no longer produced, and many techniques remain lost. Industrial imitations dominate the market, and traditional craftsmanship struggles to survive. Still, interest is growing, awareness is increasing, and the mystery remains strong. A reminder that ancient human skill once created a metal so advanced that even today we are still trying to fully understand it. Baghdad Battery, Iraq, approximately 250 BCE to 200 CE. What if electricity was discovered more than 2,000 years ago? Not in modern labs, not with wires and machines, but with clay jars, metal rods, and simple materials. And then the knowledge disappeared. This is the strange and controversial mystery of the Baghdad Battery. In the land of ancient Mesopotamia, near present-day Baghdad, archaeologists found a small object that looked simple at first: a clay jar. Inside it, a copper cylinder. At the center, an iron rod, nothing fancy, nothing advanced. But when scientists studied it, they realized something unusual. If this jar was filled with a liquid like vinegar or lemon juice, it could produce a small electric charge. Not strong, but real. That discovery shocked many researchers, because the object dates back to around 250 BCE to 200 CE, long before modern understanding of electricity. This artifact became known as the Baghdad Battery. The design is simple. A clay pot acts as a container. A copper sheet rolled into a tube forms one part. An iron rod placed inside becomes another. When a liquid is added, a chemical reaction can happen. That reaction produces electricity. Even today, students can recreate this setup and generate a small voltage. So the big question begins. Did ancient people really create batteries? Or is this just a coincidence? Some researchers believe the device may have been used for electroplating, a process where a thin layer of metal is placed onto another object using electricity. Ancient jewelry sometimes shows thin coatings of gold or silver. This suggests people may have experimented with methods to decorate metal surfaces. If they used electric charge for plating, that means they understood basic electrical effects. Not like modern science, but practical understanding. Others believe the jar had a medical use. Ancient healers sometimes used mild electric shocks to treat pain or muscle problems. Even today, certain therapies use controlled electrical stimulation. Maybe the jar produced a small shock. Maybe it was used for healing. Another theory says it was purely ritualistic. It may have held scrolls or sacred objects. The metal parts might not have been meant for electricity at all. Some historians argue there is no clear proof it was used as a battery, and that is where the mystery deepens, because we do not have written records explaining its use. No instructions, no descriptions, just the object and interpretation. The artifact was discovered in the 1930s during excavations in Iraq. When scientists tested similar designs, they confirmed the possibility of electrical output. But possibility does not always mean purpose. Ancient people might have created it for something entirely different. Still, the design feels intentional. Copper and iron together create a reaction. Liquid helps conduct it. This combination seems more than random. It suggests experimentation, curiosity, observation, and that fits ancient Mesopotamian culture. This region was home to early scientific thinking. Mathematics, astronomy, engineering, many ideas began here. People observed nature carefully. They tested materials. They built tools. So, experimenting with chemical reactions is not impossible. But here is another twist. If they knew about this, why did the knowledge disappear? Why did electricity not develop further? The answer may be simple. Because it was not understood fully. Maybe they discovered the effect accidentally. Maybe they used it in limited ways. Maybe they never realized its full potential. Without written science and organized research, discoveries can fade. A technique might exist for a while, then vanish when people stop practicing it. That happens often in history. We assume progress always moves forward, but sometimes knowledge is lost, then rediscovered centuries later. Electricity as a science developed much later in Europe. Scientists studied it systematically. They wrote theories, they created devices. Knowledge spread and grew. But before that, small experiments may have existed in different places. Baghdad battery could be one of them. Or it could be something else entirely. And that uncertainty keeps the debate alive. Some modern researchers strongly believe it was not a battery. They say there is no proof of wires, no evidence of connected systems, no confirmed electroplated objects directly linked to it. Others argue ancient technology did not always look like modern technology. It may have been simple, local, limited, but still functional. Both sides have valid points. That is why the mystery continues. Imagine living in that time. You experiment with metals and liquids. You notice a reaction, a small shock, a change in material. You use it for decoration or healing, but you do not know the science behind it. Science, you only know it works. That is how many ancient discoveries began. By observation, by trial and error, not by theory. The Baghdad battery represents that spirit. Curiosity before explanation. Use before understanding. But history was not kind to the artifact. Many items discovered in that region faced damage, loss, or destruction over time due to wars, instability, and poor preservation. Some original pieces disappeared, some were damaged. Records became incomplete. This made research harder. Scientists had to rely on reconstructions, experiments based on assumptions, and that increases uncertainty. Still, interest remains strong. Museums, historians, and researchers continue studying similar artifacts. Experiments recreate the design using clay jars, copper, and iron. The results show small electrical output again and again. Not powerful, but real. Enough to spark imagination. There are positive conditions now. Global awareness of ancient science is growing. People respect early innovation. Universities study archaeological technology. Documentaries and research projects keep the story alive. Interest brings preservation. Education helps protect artifacts. People begin to see ancient civilizations not just as builders, but as thinkers. But there are negative conditions too. Political instability in the region affected museums and historical collections. Some artifacts were lost or stolen over time. That reduces evidence and slows research. Another problem is exaggeration. Some claim the Baghdad battery proves advanced ancient electricity systems. Others connect it to myths. These extreme ideas confuse the discussion. Real research becomes harder when imagination takes over. Also, modern society often ignores ancient experimentation because it seems small compared to today's technology. But small steps matter. Every discovery starts small. My opinion is this: the Baghdad battery is important not because it proves ancient electricity fully existed, but because it shows humans were always experimenting. People tried things, mixed materials, observed reactions, learned from experience. That curiosity is the root of science. Even if the jar was not used as a true battery, it still represents innovation. It shows ancient minds were active, creative, exploring the world. Another lesson is about preservation. Knowledge disappears when it is not recorded clearly. Tools vanish, skills fade, and future generations are left guessing. That happened here. We may never know the exact purpose, but maybe that is okay. Mystery keeps interest alive. It pushes people to ask questions, to research, to explore. And every question brings us closer to understanding history. The Baghdad battery sits at the edge of science and mystery. Not fully proven, not fully denied, just waiting. Present situation at that places. Artifacts linked to the Baghdad battery are connected to the history of Iraq, where preservation of ancient heritage continues despite challenges. Museums and researchers study similar objects, and global interest remains high. However, past conflicts, theft, and damage have affected archaeological collections, limiting available evidence. Research is ongoing, awareness is growing, and the debate continues. Whether it was an early electrical device or something else entirely, it remains one of the most fascinating mysteries of ancient human experimentation. Roman concrete, Rome, approximately 200 BCE. What if I told you there is a building material from ancient times that is stronger than many modern ones, and we still don't fully know how they made it? Not a myth, not a legend, real stone, real structures, still standing after 2,000 years. While modern bridges crack and coastal walls break in a few decades, Roman structures face storms, salt water, earthquakes, and time, and still refuse to fall. Today, we are stepping into one of history's quiet mysteries, the lost secret of Roman concrete. Imagine standing in the heart of Rome. Tourists move everywhere, cameras clicking, voices echoing. And in the middle of all this, there are structures built more than 2,000 years ago. Not rebuilt, not replaced. Still original. Still holding their shape. Still strong. The first question hits you immediately. How? Modern engineers spend billions designing concrete that lasts maybe 80 to 120 years. But the ancient Romans created something that survived centuries of storms, wars, neglect, and even natural disasters. Something is different here. Roman concrete was not like what we use today. Today, we mix cement, sand, gravel, and water. It hardens, but over time it cracks. Steel inside it rusts. Moisture weakens it. Salt eats it slowly. But Roman concrete, it behaves in the opposite way. It actually gets stronger with time. This is where the mystery deepens. The Romans built harbors, roads, domes, and massive walls across the Roman Empire. Some of their coastal structures still stand where waves crash daily. Imagine salt water hitting the same concrete for 2,000 years, and instead of breaking, it becomes tougher. How is that even possible? The answer starts with something simple: volcanic ash. Romans used ash from volcanic regions, especially around areas near active volcanoes. They mixed it with lime and seawater. This created a chemical reaction very different from modern cement. Instead of slowly breaking apart, crystals began forming inside the concrete over time. These crystals filled tiny cracks, making the structure stronger instead of weaker. In simple words, the concrete healed itself. Yes, self-healing stone, created thousands of years ago. One of the best examples is the Pantheon. Its dome is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world, built nearly 2,000 years ago. No steel rods inside, no modern support. And yet, it stands. Walk inside and look up. The structure feels calm, stable, almost alive. Every layer was carefully designed. The Romans made the concrete lighter as it went higher, using different materials at different heights. They understood weight, balance, and strength in a way that feels surprisingly modern. But here is the strange part. After the fall of Rome, this knowledge slowly disappeared. Civilizations rose, empires changed, technology advanced. Yet the exact method of Roman concrete was forgotten for centuries. Builders moved to different techniques. Modern cement replaced ancient methods, and with that, a powerful secret slipped away. For years, historians believed Roman builders simply had good materials, but recent studies show it was more than that. It was the recipe, the timing, the mixing method, even the way it was poured. Everything mattered. Some structures even show lumps of lime that were once thought to be mistakes. But now, scientists think those were intentional. When cracks formed, water entered and reacted with these lime pieces, helping seal the crack. It is almost like the Romans built materials that could repair themselves. Think about the level of understanding this required. No modern labs, no digital testing, just observation, patience, and experience. This is where the mystery becomes emotional. Because this was not just engineering, it was wisdom passed by builders, not written clearly in books. And when the empire collapsed, so did the chain of knowledge. Now, let's talk about where these structures still exist today. Roman harbors in Italy still face the sea. Ancient breakwaters stand where ships once docked. Coastal walls continue fighting waves every day. Structures in areas near Mount Vesuvius still show the strength of volcanic ash concrete. And even ruins, the broken ones, show resistance. Modern researchers study samples, cut pieces, and scan them to understand what happens inside. And each time they do, they discover something new. But the big question remains. If we know Roman concrete is stronger, why don't we use it everywhere today? The answer is not simple. Modern construction needs speed. Roman concrete took time to mix and set. It was not always fast. It depended on natural materials. It required skilled workers who understood each layer. Today, construction is about efficiency, deadlines, cost, mass production. Also, modern buildings often need steel reinforcement for height and flexibility. Roman methods work best for thick, heavy structures, not always for tall skyscrapers. Still, interest is growing again. Scientists are now trying to recreate Roman concrete for coastal protection. Seawalls built using similar materials may last longer and reduce damage from storms and rising sea levels. That means an ancient secret may help solve a modern problem. Now, let's look at the present condition of these Roman sites. Positive side: many structures are still strong. They attract millions of visitors. They continue teaching engineers and historians. They are protected by heritage laws. Restoration teams monitor cracks and weather damage. They are not just ruins, they are classrooms. Negative side: pollution is a serious threat. Acid rain damages surfaces. Heavy tourism causes stress on ancient floors and walls. Vibrations from traffic affect foundations. Climate change increases moisture and temperature changes. And sadly, some structures have already been lost due to neglect. Urban growth also creates pressure. Cities expand, and ancient remains get surrounded by modern buildings. This sometimes weakens preservation efforts. Another issue is misunderstanding. People assume ancient means fragile, but Roman concrete proves the opposite. Some modern repairs done with modern cement have actually damaged older structures because the materials react differently. It's ironic. Trying to protect them with modern methods sometimes harms them. Standing near these structures today feels strange. You see cracks, yes, weathering, yes, but the core strength, still there. They feel stubborn, like they refuse to fade. And that creates a feeling, respect, because this was built by hands, by people who never imagined future scientists would study their work. Builders who probably thought they were just doing their job, not creating history. My personal opinion? Roman concrete is not just a lost recipe, it's a reminder that progress is not always forward. Sometimes knowledge disappears. Sometimes ancient solutions are better than modern shortcuts. We often think we are more advanced, but the Romans built something that survived thousands of years without computers, machines, or modern science. That tells us something important. Intelligence is not only about technology. It is about observation, patience, and respect for nature. Roman builders worked with nature, volcanic ash, seawater, lime. Modern construction often works against it. And maybe that is why their work lasted longer. If we truly learn from Roman concrete, we may build cities that survive not just decades, but centuries. Because strength is not only about materials, it is about understanding time. Present situation at these places today, Roman concrete structures across Italy and former empire regions still stand, many under protection and active research. Some are stable and strong, some damaged by pollution and tourism. Scientists continue studying them. Governments maintain key monuments, and engineers try to bring this ancient knowledge back into modern construction. The mystery is no longer hidden, but it is still not fully solved. Antikythera Mechanism, Greece, approximately 100 BCE. Imagine a machine built more than 2,000 years ago. So complex that when modern scientists first saw it, they thought it belonged to a much later time. Gears, dials, precise movement, something that looked closer to a clock or a computer than anything from the ancient world. And the most shocking part? It was lying hidden underwater for centuries. This is the mystery of the Antikythera Mechanism. In 1901, divers exploring a shipwreck near a small Greek island made a discovery that confused everyone. Among broken statues and pottery, they found a strange lump of metal and wood. At first, it looked like a damaged rock, but when cleaned, something unbelievable appeared. Gears inside. Not simple gears, dozens of them. This shipwreck was located near Antikythera, between mainland Greece and Crete. The wreck dated back around 2,000 years, possibly around 100 BCE, and inside it was this object, a device that looked mechanical, calculated, and purposeful. No one expected such technology from that time, because in history books, ancient machines were simple: water wheels, pulleys, levers. But this was different. This was precision engineering. When researchers slowly studied it, they realized it was not just a machine. It was a device that could predict astronomical events. Yes, an ancient computer. The mechanism had gears that moved in patterns connected to the sun, the moon, and even planets. It could track lunar cycles, predict eclipses, and show positions of celestial bodies. Think about that for a moment. More than 2,000 years ago, someone built a device capable of modeling the sky. This discovery shocked historians, because it meant ancient Greek engineers understood astronomy and mathematics at a level far beyond what people believed. The mechanism is now linked to the world of ancient Greek science, especially knowledge connected to scholars from regions influenced by roads and intellectual traditions of thinkers like Archimedes, though the exact creator is still unknown. And that is part of the mystery. We don't know who made it. We don't know where exactly it was built. We don't know how many more existed, because this is the only one ever found. The device had bronze gears arranged carefully inside a wooden case. The front and back had dials with markings. When someone turned a handle, the gears rotated and showed astronomical information. It could show the phases of the moon. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses. It could even track cycles used by ancient Olympic Games. This was not decoration. This was science. The complexity of the mechanism suggests it was not the first of its kind. Machines like this usually come after many earlier experiments, which means there may have been more, now lost forever. Some experts believe knowledge of advanced mechanics existed in the Greek world but disappeared during wars and political changes. After the fall of ancient Greek scientific centers and later the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, many scientific traditions faded or were not preserved properly. And with them, possibly the knowledge to build such machines. For centuries, humanity moved forward without creating something similar again. Mechanical clocks did not appear until much later in medieval Europe. It feels like history skipped a step. This is what makes the Antikythera mechanism so mysterious. It does not fit smoothly into the timeline. It feels ahead of its time. Some people even called it the world's first computer. Not digital, of course, but a mechanical device that processed information and gave predictions. Imagine holding it in your hands. A small wooden box, gears hidden inside, carefully carved markings, metal shining. You turn a knob, and it shows the future movement of the sky. For ancient sailors, travelers, and scholars, this would have been priceless. It may have helped in navigation, calendar planning, religious festivals, or scientific study. But then came the question, how did it end up underwater? The ship carrying it likely sank during a storm. It may have been transporting goods from Greece to Rome. Along with statues and luxury items, this device might have been a valuable scientific tool owned by a wealthy person or scholar. And then, in a moment, lost. For almost 2,000 years, it remained silent under the sea. Saltwater damaged it, wood decayed, metal corroded, parts broke apart. When divers found it, it was in pieces. Even after recovery, it took decades before anyone realized its importance. Early researchers thought it was just an unusual object, But as technology improved, scientists used X-rays and 3D imaging to look inside. And that changed everything. Hidden gears appeared clearly. Patterns showed mathematical precision. Inscribed text was found on surfaces, giving instructions and explanations. This proved the device was intentional and carefully designed. Not a toy, not decoration, a scientific instrument. This discovery forced historians to rethink ancient technology. If such a machine existed in 100 BCE, then ancient engineering skills were far more advanced than believed. And it raises a haunting question. How much knowledge has humanity lost? Wars, fires, invasions, decay, entire libraries disappeared. Think of knowledge stored in scrolls, books, and workshops that no longer exist. Maybe machines like this were once common among scholars. Maybe they were rare masterpieces. We simply don't know. The Antikythera Mechanism stands alone, a survivor, and its existence changes how we see the ancient world. Now, let's talk about what it means today. The mechanism is currently preserved and studied in Athens. It is kept in a museum environment where temperature and humidity are controlled. Scientists continue analyzing its parts, hoping to understand every gear and marking. Positive side, research has grown rapidly. Modern scanning revealed hidden inscriptions. Engineers created working replicas to see how it functioned. Students and scientists learn from it. It inspires innovation and curiosity. It has become a symbol of ancient intelligence. Negative side, the original device is extremely fragile. Corrosion has damaged many parts permanently. Some gears are incomplete. We may never fully know its original form. Also, the shipwreck site itself faces natural erosion and disturbance. Artifacts underwater always face risk. Another challenge is interpretation. We understand much about the mechanism, but not everything. Some functions are still debated. There may be features we don't even realize yet. That uncertainty keeps the mystery alive. Standing in front of it today, people feel shock. Because it looks modern in concept, ancient in appearance, and mysterious in purpose. It connects past and present in a powerful way. You realize something important. Ancient people were not primitive. They were curious, intelligent, and observant. They studied the sky, measured time, and built tools to understand the universe. And they did it with limited resources. No electricity, no computers, no modern machines. Just skill, patience, and deep thinking. My opinion? The Antikythera Mechanism is one of the most important reminders in human history. It shows that knowledge is fragile. Civilizations rise, invent, discover, and then sometimes forget. What feels like modern progress might actually be rediscovering ideas from the past. It also shows that intelligence is timeless. Ancient minds were just as capable as ours. They observed nature closely. They built tools based on logic and understanding. We often believe the present is the peak of human advancement. But this machine whispers something different. It says, we have been brilliant before, and we can lose brilliance if we stop preserving knowledge. The Antikythera Mechanism is not just a device. It is a warning and an inspiration, and it reminds us to record, protect, and pass knowledge forward. Because somewhere in history, people built machines that could predict the sky, and then the world forgot how. Present situation at that place today, the Antikythera Mechanism is preserved in a museum in Athens under strong protection. Scientists continue studying it using modern technology. The shipwreck site near Antikythera remains important for underwater research, but faces natural damage. Public interest is high, awareness is growing, and replicas help people understand its function. However, parts of the original device are permanently lost, and the full story may never be completely known.